Hi there, and welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. And today we are going to make a really simple and basic bread stuffing in the Ninja Foodi. This is super easy and totally customizable. So even if you want to add different ingredients to your stuffing, you could certainly use this same basic technique and get it done pretty quickly and very efficiently, in my opinion. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn the Ninja Foodi on. We're going to go to the sear saute, high is what we want, and turn it on. So what I have here is a quarter cup, half a stick, or 4 tablespoons of salted butter. And I'm just going to put that into the inner pot there and let it start to melt. I also have 1 onion that I diced up, and this is probably 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch dice. No need to be exact with that. And I have 2 celery stalks that I also diced the same size. And as soon as the butter is melted, we're going to add that in and start to saute them. I also have several different colored peppers. Now these are the mini peppers. They're very, very similar to the bell peppers, red, orange, yellow, green, whatever color you want to use. But I find that they stay fresher longer in the fridge. So I've been starting to get these instead of the bell peppers, and I get a nice little bag of them and they stay good for quite some time. So I'm gonna add peppers because I think it adds a beautiful color, but you don't have to. You could add mushrooms, you could add, peppers, no mushrooms, no onions, celery I think kind of goes with stuffing, but if you don't like it, don't add it in. It's going to be fine. So this is totally customizable, definitely. Let me back up for a second, because if you wanted to add some sausage or some other type of meat to your stuffing, now we're not talking about seafood right now, just meat, you could certainly add that in and brown it up and probably decrease your butter a little bit, because you can use the grease of the meat that you cook up to saute your vegetables in. So you can use your judgment on that, because a sausage stuffing is absolutely delicious as well. I figured I would keep this pretty basic, because that way you guys can add whatever you want. All right, I hear the butter starting to sizzle, so I'm going to go ahead and dump in these vegetables. And as I cut up the peppers, I'm just going to throw those in. Give them a stir around. Perfect. All right, so that's good there. I don't even take the seeds out of my peppers when I do this. There's very few of them, and I just don't even worry about it. I just dump them right in. So it's actually much easier to cut these up too. Doesn't matter what size you make the rings. Either you can make them, pretty thick or pretty thin, whichever you prefer. And you can use whatever colors you like. Whoops. Most of the seeds are in this little cap here, so you can certainly take it off like that and use every bit of the pepper if you want. I just usually put these into my compost bin though. All right, very good. All right, let's give this a little stir. Now we want to add a little bit of seasoning here. And what I'm going to add for seasoning is, again, very basic. You could add anything you want. Some people like rosemary, some people like thyme. I'm going to keep this super, super simple. We have 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, and 1/2 teaspoon of poultry seasoning, and that is it. And we're just going to sprinkle that in to season our veggies there. So what you want to do is let these saute for about 5 minutes, and they will soften up. And then we're going to go ahead and add in our bread. Now, one of the things with stuffing is you usually want dry bread. So day-old bread, bread that you leave open, bread that you put in the oven for a few minutes. But what I found with the Ninja Foodi is we don't even have to worry about that, because we can use the crisping lid to get the bread the perfect consistency for stuffing, because you don't want it to be totally soft bread like this is right now coming out of the bag. It's very soft. It'll absorb too much of the liquid and you will just end up with mush. It won't be like a true bread stuffing. So we definitely want to toast this up. And we're going to do that right in the Ninja Foodi. So this is just basic white bread, the least expensive I could find. You could use rye bread, which is unbelievable in a stuffing. I don't have a recipe. I should have a recipe, but I don't. But I have made it several times. It's a rye bread, sausage, and pepper stuffing. Oh my gosh, it is so good. But any kind of bread you like, perfectly fine. All right, so while your vegetables are sauteing, you can get your bread cubed up. And I'm just gonna take my knife, same knife I used for the vegetables, and just cut it into large cubes. Now you can make them as big or as small as you like. I usually make 3 slices along one side and then 4 the other. Kind of gives you a nice little cube there. And then just dump them in. And just do the same thing. Now I made 4 and 4, so whatever you want to do, it's fine. 4 and 4 is probably good. It gives you nice even squares there. And just do that with all of the bread and just dump them in. You don't need to mix it up or anything right now, okay? Because we're gonna go ahead and use the broil function to broil the bread and get it nice and toasted. I'm famous for like going to make stuffing for Thanksgiving and not having my bread ready. And then it's a big old mess and I'm trying to put it on sheet pans and put it in the oven and get it toasted up and all that kind of stuff. So I was so excited to just see that I could just do all of that right in the inner pot of the Ninja Foodi and just make the stuffing right in the pot. It makes it so much easier. And you can see we're gonna have a full pot here, a really full pot. But stuffing compresses quite a bit when you get the liquid in, so it won't yield this much stuffing. In fact, we'll be able to put it into one pan, and I'll show you the pan in just a minute. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we can close the lid and go to the broil and hit it for 10 minutes. We're gonna let this go a full 10 minutes and then we're gonna flip. We'll do about 4 minutes and then we just flip and we do 2-minute increments until all of our bread is toasted. So it usually takes probably about 18 to 20 minutes to get the bread toasted up. But that's perfectly fine because I can always find something to do in that time period. Now real quick, let me show you the pan I'm gonna use. I'm gonna use this pan that comes with my double stacking steamer pot, but you could use any pan you want. This one I like because of the depth of it, but the 8-inch baking pan that comes in the baking kit from the Ninja Foodi could definitely be used as well. I'm not using it because guess what? It is full of scalloped potatoes right now because I just finished my recipe for scalloped potatoes and there's a ton left over. So that's in the fridge with the scalloped potatoes. And I will link to that video right up there because they are fantastic. So you could use that pan. You could use a Fat Daddy-O 8x2 pan, but I think a 3-inch depth is gonna be better for this, or you could separate it into 2 pans of stuffing. That would be fine as well. And then the other ingredient that I have here that we'll use in a little bit is about 2 cups of turkey broth. Not necessarily bone broth, but you could use that as well. You could use chicken stock, or you could use the giblets and the neck from your turkey. You can put those into the inner pot with a couple of cups of water and then pressure cook for like 5 minutes. And that will give you a nice flavored stock for your stuffing if you wanted to do it that way. I just happened to already cook my turkey, so I had the juices left over, and it's a perfect use for those. But most people, when they're making stuffing, won't have their turkey already cooked, so you won't have this. But you can use, like I said, chicken broth, or if you have turkey broth in the freezer from before, you can use that, or use the giblets that you pressure cook in some water, and that's all fine. right, so it's been just about, 7.5 minutes, and I'm gonna go ahead and flip now because I can start to smell the bread toasting up. So use the 10 minutes as just a guideline, but I could smell it, and now I'm gonna flip. So the top is nice and crunchy, like we want, but the bottom is still gonna be soft. So we're just gonna flip it around in here and lower the lid and keep going. And that's it. Now I'm gonna go another 2 minutes, 3 minutes or so. I'm gonna put 10 more minutes on here. It's not gonna take longer than 20 minutes. So I'm gonna flip at about maybe 2 or 3 more minutes and then 2 minutes until it's all nice and dried out and a little bit on the crunchy side. All right, so it's just been almost 3 minutes. Let's just take a look here. And the tops again are nice and brown and crunchy, but the underneath is still gonna need to be flipped again. If you get any of the vegetables during this time and they flip up, do not worry about it. It is fine. So I'm just trying to get all the way down to the bottom. Honestly, I think we have maybe 2 more minutes to go. So this was a lot quicker than the last bread I did. I don't know why, but it is. So let's see, how many minutes did we go? We went 8 minutes. So maybe like less than 15 minutes. So that's pretty good. All right, let's check on it again. It's been another minute or so. And you know what? I think we're done here. Everything looks really good. Yeah, and I can hear it. That's perfect. Okay, so now what we need to do is pour in some of our stock. And what I have, like I said, is 2 cups. I'm gonna pour in 1 cup. Mine is gonna be pretty thick just because of, if number 1, it was in the refrigerator, and number 2, it is all the drippings from the turkey, and so there is some fat in there too, but that makes this extra delicious. Now I'm just gonna toss this around. Just to mix the vegetables with the bread and kind of get it so that it's just a little moist. It doesn't need to be totally wet, just a little moist. And you'll see it reduce in volume quite a bit. Then we'll get ready to put it into our pan. Now you could butter this if you wanted. As a matter of fact, you know what? I'm gonna butter it. Let me grab my basting brush and a little bit of softened butter and just grab out some here. That's just gonna help the stuffing not to stick. I don't think it probably would, but there we go. Just a little light bit of butter there. Perfect. All right, so now let's get our stuffing out and into our pan. It smells so good. And it's amazing, like with those few seasonings. It's beautiful, it's basic, and it's delicious. But it's about to get a little more delicious. And what I'm gonna do is take a little piece here that is pretty wet with the broth so that I can taste it for seasonings. Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. But that's a good idea so that you know if you need to add any seasonings, because now would be the time. Actually, now is not the time. The time is when it's in the pot still. So if I needed to add more seasonings, I honestly would have had to dump this back in. So I make sure that I get the seasonings dispersed throughout. This is a perfect amount of stuffing. Don't be concerned that it's going to go over the lip. We're not even going to cover it when we pressure cook it. Well, pressure cooking, I kind of debated a little bit about whether I was going to even pressure cook this, because I could have put in the whole amount of the turkey broth there. I could have put in the whole 2 cups and then just sort of baked it. But I thought, it's going to take a while to bake. And I was afraid it was just going to be like too gummy at the bottom. So I decided to sort of mimic the natural way that a stuffing cooks inside of a turkey when you stuff a turkey. And that is by the juices kind of slowly penetrating as the turkey cooks. It just moistens the stuffing inside. And then, of course, you also crisp up the outside, which is my favorite part, because it's roasting on the outside. So what I decided to do is use the remaining 1 cup of turkey broth . 1 cup of turkey broth. 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 1 cup of So don't even worry about what's in the bottom here. I'm just gonna mix it in so that nothing is stuck, but we're not gonna even be concerned with emptying that out. And then we're gonna get our stuffing onto the rack. Like I said, this is optional. If you didn't wanna do this step, just pour the rest of it over top and go on to the bake or the broil, whatever you wanna do. But I found that this worked so great. Leave it uncovered, and we're gonna put on our pressure lid. And we're gonna go to high pressure. We only need to do 5 minutes. And hit start. Make sure you turn your valve in the back to seal. So what's gonna happen now is that turkey broth is gonna start to boil, create steam. It's gonna go up, and it's also going to moisten the stuffing a little bit more. So I found that this worked perfectly, but again, you don't have to do it. You can just dump that over and bake it up or broil it up as you like. All right, so we just have a few seconds left, and I'm gonna do an immediate release. No need to natural release on this at all. And I wanted to say that the pot came up to pressure super fast. I mean, in a couple of minutes. All right, the pin has dropped. That means that you can open the lid. Do that away from you because it is steamy. And now we can see that our stuffing has gotten some more moisture, and it looks perfect. So it's not really wet, but it's not totally dry. Now all we have to do is use the crisping lid to broil it a little bit. And it's the beauty of the Ninja Foodi. Just put it down, put your crisping lid down, go ahead and hit 10 minutes. It's not gonna take that long though. And don't worry even about emptying the pot. It's no big deal. That little bit of stock that's left down there, the broth, the turkey broth, is not gonna make a difference. So now we just broil it up a little bit. All right, so we've been under broil for just about 5 minutes, so let's take a peek and see what's going on with our stuffing. And it honestly looks good to me. It really looks done, so I think we're done. I'm not gonna go any longer. Now, if the stuffing looks too dry and you've got dry areas, you can always add a little bit more of your chicken stock, turkey broth, turkey bone broth, whatever you're using. You can use a little, add a little bit more and then put the broil down, but this looks great to me. So let's go ahead and get it out, and we will dish it up and serve it up. I always like to take things off of the rack because things tend to slip off the rack. All right, this looks fantastic. Turn the Ninja Foodi off. Look at that. It's beautiful. It was easy. Oops, I'm dropping it everywhere too. All right, there we go. There's our stuffing. And again, this looks like I could have used a little more broth, I think. Just a little bit more. I like mine a little bit softer underneath with the crispiness on top. But I know it's gonna taste delicious. So let's move this up right out of the way. It's a little hot. Let's see. So let's get down into here. This is how I like most of my stuffing to look. It's moist, not too dry. All right, so let's give it a taste. That is good. Wow. Even though those seasonings were so simple, they are so flavorful. So this is a perfectly seasoned stuffing, definitely. Now, if you're not using turkey broth like I did, you may have to adjust your seasonings because your stock may not be as flavorful as mine. So just keep that in mind and adjust accordingly. And always, season to your liking. Wow. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I don't know about you, but stuffing is usually time consuming to make, for me anyway. It seems to have a lot of steps. I love the fact that I can get it all done in the Ninja Foodi, one pot. It was really easy to do and relatively quick, really. So I'm a big fan of this. Of course, like I said earlier, you can change up the ingredients to make them your own. If you add like crumbled sausage and you use the broth, the grease and the juices from the sausage, you may decrease some of your turkey broth or chicken stock, whatever you're using. So just use your judgment in that. And then one last thing I wanted to say is this is really great to make ahead. So if you want to make this ahead of time, just make it up until the point that you pressure cook it. Or you could even pressure cook it, but then you're gonna have to either re-pressure cook it or steam it to get it hot just before serving. So I recommend doing all of it until we get to the pressure cooking step. Then put it in the refrigerator. When you're ready to serve it, put it into the pressure cooker for 5 minutes and then broil it up. And you will end up having the best stuffing ever. Perfect. I love peppers in my stuffing. However, whatever you want to add or omit from your stuffing is perfectly fine. You can adjust the ingredients to suit you. I really hope you make this and make it yours.